your seat and finish up your coffee, that would be wonderful. Or bring it over here. All right, everyone, hello and welcome back. We are excited to continue. Our next panel discussion will be about going over from this policy end. We're going to talk more about the mental health status of children who are using these phones, who we're discussing today. Navigating young minds and mobiles, the impact on students' well-being, mental state, and learning capabilities. With us, we have Ryan Blank, coming from the UK. He's the head of politics at the Harrow School in London. Next to him, we have Marie-Estelle Dupont, and she is a clinical psychologist and author from France. And then we have Andrei Omulets, professor at the School of Advanced Social Studies at the University of Nova Gorica in Slovenia. And also from Slovenia, we have Josica Pongrac, who is a family and marital therapist, and also a lawyer. So, and the conversation will be moderated by Enika Szakos, senior researcher at the MCC Learning Institute.
Thank you for the introduction and welcome everyone. It's nice to see how many people are interested in this topic, and as I can see from so many fields, and also to have experts from different fields. So thank you for accepting the invitation. I would like to create a tradition here because I really liked the previous panel where there was a short first round. And not only the introduction of yourself is important because Katica already did that, but I would like to ask you why the topic is so important to you that you started to work in it. So if you would give us a bit longer introduction, what you do, and why is it important to you? And if you could start, please, so we can go in order.
So, thank you very much for both the introduction and for the opportunity to speak. So, I'm a teacher. I work with children by choice. I spend most of my time with children every day. I work at a very intense school. It's a full boarding school. And so not only do I teach them in the classroom, but I teach them at sport. I play games with them in the evening. I take them out to dinner. I spend all of my time with children. And alongside my role as an educator, a teacher, I also do some undergraduate supervising at the University of Cambridge. And so I have if you will, an insight into not only the life of teenagers at school, but also what the product of school is at the highest levels of British education. In other words, the top X amount of students in the country that manage to get into the University of Cambridge, I teach. And what I've noticed is a massive problem, and it's a twofold problem, and that is, on the one hand, kids are hurting. And that continues at undergraduate level. We just had quite a serious suicide scandal at the University of Oxford that was caused by peer-on-peer abuse, bullying. And we also have a severe lack of knowledge. And I would say that these two things are linked. So I guess that's why I'm interested in children's mental health, is because I see the kids and what they're suffering, and I see what the end product is.
Hello, thank you for your invitation. As a psychologist and an author, I started my career in a department of psychiatry. We receive teenagers and young adults suffering from addictions and eating disorders. It was in 2004, and all along the time, what I was able to notice is that screens and social networks had a very negative effect on their emotional balance and their social skills. I'm also a mother of 3, which means during the lockdowns, I could see my teenager friends and the baby who were around my kids, my younger kids, suffering from loneliness, from sadness, and we could notice that the part of brain involved in social skills, empathy, aggressivity, were very, I'm sorry, my English is terrible, was impacted by lockdowns and other measures. So I was involved in French media, in television and radio, to tell to journalists and politicians that the mental health of young people was the future of our society, and school bullying, psychiatric issues were able to be changed if we invested a lot on very young people, mental health and educational level, because in France we have a double problem. We have the mental health issues, but we also have the school level, who is decreasing very quickly. The PISA ranking is an absolute catastrophe because mathematics and French level are worse and worse. Sorry for my English.
Thank you. And for our next panelist, I would like to ask Jožica's help to translate, if it's possible. Thank you.
Pozdravljeni. V bistvu se prihajam iz športnega sveta in sem v bistvu začel z športno kariero, potem sem pa enega dneva pač šel na neke tabore, v bistvu humanitarne tabore v humanitarnih organizacijah, kjer sem ugotovil, da je ogromne revščine teh otrok. In v bistvu na koncu ugotovil, da vsi v tej revščini pa dejansko imajo mobilni telefon.
So, hello everybody, I'm Andrej Omulet. I come originally from a sports world where I was very active. He was a professional cyclist, even won some championships and also toured in Hungary. But then one day, by the number of events, he started to go with the children to these children camps, where he realized there is a lot of children come from some power, not wealthy, but if you're not wealthy, poverty. But then he realized that they all do share one common thing, and that is mobile phone.
No in potem smo začeli ustanavljati v bistvu terapevtske skupine, skupnosti. Zdaj trenutno vključujemo preko 400 ljudi v terapije, se pravi dejansko v brezplačne terapije otrok, dejansko največ se ukvarjamo pa z zasvojenostjo oziroma z nasiljem otrok do staršev oziroma staršev med sabo, in ogromno je tudi enih ločitev in dejansko potem otroci v svojih doživljanjih, ki jih pač imajo, največkrat ostajajo sami z svojimi mobilnimi telefoni.
So that's how he got the idea, and we both work in one non-profit organization to include these people and especially these children in these programs who are free of charge for them. And in these programs and during the therapy, he realized how children suffer, how they get aggressive, especially when parents get divorced, and then all that children are left with are the cell phones.
V bistvu za ta program, ki smo ga ustanovili, smo dobili tudi nagrado leta 2021 za najboljši socialno-varstveni program.
And also, at the moment, this program includes 400 people, so many people can come to the therapy for free, and we work there as volunteers. And in 2021, we received on the national level the award for this benefits of this program.
Thank you.
And so I'm Jožica Pongrac. Originally I'm a lawyer, but then additionally I studied psychotherapy. So I work at this non-profit organization. And as we heard today, a lot of emphasis was like we need to tell the children. It somehow always hurts my heart when we try to blame the children. I mean, maybe the blame is not the right choice of words, but also sometimes when children are brought to therapy, the parents say, look, just to be clear, this is my child, so you fix him and I come and collect him and I take him home. But, you know, look at us now at the table, show me a table which doesn't have a phone. We all have phones on the table, so how can we expect something which we are not a role model first? Because as we heard even before, children look at us, and then they repeat. So maybe I also always advocate for children. I understand parent side, I understand teachers, this is great to build a village, of course, but let us start with what children express, why are they on the phone, why this behavior is needed, what is behind this phone, what needs are not met, and then we can make a difference. So this is...
Thank you very much. First, I would like to draw a problem map, so collect everything we will talk about. And you already mentioned some, the bullying, the decrease of the results, and the lack of parent involvement. So what do you see as the biggest problem today's schools regarding the children, but also now we can involve the parents and also especially the teachers and in this digitalized environment?
I think the first issue that school is now facing is the lack of respect for knowledge. Screens are the symptom, not the cause, but the symptom of a society in which the time is reduced to very short-term satisfaction. And so kids are used to have very quickly satisfaction. And it means that even if the human being is a mammal, which means emotions are necessary to survive, kids are very quickly used to have only two sorts of emotions, fear and excitement. And screens are very poor emotional providers, which means they do not explore the pleasure and the proudness of learning, of having great achievements, of having strong bonds with their peers, because knowledge from 2 decades is knowledge is now less important than appearance. And I think it's a big issue for teachers to, if they are not supported by parents, and if parents are not supported by teachers, we won't be able to show our kids how knowledge is a pleasure, how think is a pleasure. And they need time to know how to handwrite, how to read. In fact, we are the last generation who learn peacefully how to write and how to read without a permanent alert on a screen. And I say to my patients, you know, you will not give a screen to your kid before he perfectly uses a pencil. I think we can have this as an alert in our brains, because if he uses a pencil perfectly, then the tool, the screen, can be interesting for certain things, but not before, the knowledge before. And Maria Montessori told us that the knowledge began in fine motor skills. and the domestic behaviors and the habits of a human being are not virtual. It's involving all the body and all the emotions. That I think it is the first thing to tell to teachers.
Thank you.
And building on that, I think we're sitting in a cafe named after Sir Roger Scruton, and one of his quotes just over there is particularly relevant, I think. And it's this idea that beauty is everyday and ordinary. If part of the human experience is hungering after beauty, is hungering after that which is good and perhaps that which is wise, which philosophy calls the beautiful, the good. Phones, tablets, any sort of digital, high-speed, high-access, shallow approach is a massive distraction, if not a major deterrent. And I suppose with that, then, I'd like to just use an illustrative example, I'll summarize with just one illustrative example. But the other day, I was teaching a lesson in which I had my 14 tutees, the boys whose emotional well-being I am responsible for and who I look after in a pastoral role. And we were supposed to be going over, after a term's worth of studying anxiety in adolescence, using a pure diet of online instruction to teach this, we were supposed to then have them fill out yet another survey online of how they were feeling. And at the same time, we were supposed to play for them a video of the nativity scene because it was the last lesson before the Christmas holiday. Guess how many of these boys were paying attention to the nativity scene video? 0. Not a single one was engaged with that task. How many of them were filling out their surveys? 2. The rest were attempting to game, to gamble, to check social media, to use WhatsApp, to use Snapchat. And these were all on their supposedly locked down devices in my classroom. And so as an educator, I spent the entire lesson wandering around saying, surface misuse, that'll be 60 double or 60 lines. That's another game, get off the game, which meant that I couldn't teach because I was policing. So I would say it's exactly that. The surface, or rather the digital technology is symptomatic. It's an emblem of a much deeper problem, and that is a problem that is a societal fixation on shallow, accessible, instant gratification, and a belief that somehow this technological approach is both benign and perhaps even an agent of good, of democratization, of spreading goodness and technology. And I suppose I would just point to one slight sign that maybe this isn't. So as I was doom scrolling myself last night before going to bed, it took 2 scrolls before I was given a pro-CCP video, which was to encourage a sort of positive view of the Chinese Communist Party. As you can tell from my accent, I'm an American, by the way, probably an unlikely candidate to fall for CCP propaganda, except for the fact that, boy, the video was compelling. I had to watch it twice. And shortly thereafter, I was shown something about race and immigration. And shortly thereafter, I was played the tune of Erica. So clearly, I was all over the board on the algorithm, but equally, all of these different bits of propaganda from both the right and the left, and perhaps the historically passé, were all what I was encountering right before bed. And I'm an adult. Ostensibly, technology's fine for me, despite the fact that we've all, including myself, got our phones out right now. How much more harmful is it then for our pupils as they're trying to engage in a multi-thousand-year-old tradition and become part of it. So anyway, that's a long-winded answer. I'll get
Thank
shorter.
you. If you were already in Hungary, maybe you confused the algorithm with your phone and the location. Andrej and Jožica, please.
Ja, v bistvu jaz sem v osnovi psihoterapeut in ogromno let, oziroma že 15 let delam z otroci in največkrat opažam to, da se v bistvu starši bojijo otrok.
So in my core, I'm a psychotherapist. I deal with children in therapeutic way for 15 years. And what I notice in my practice is that parents are afraid of children, really.
Ja, in če se iz tega vidika bojijo otrok, jim tudi pustijo telefone in se pravi, da jih s tem na nek način podkupujejo, želijo, da jih imajo otroci radi. V bistvu so te vloge dostikrat zelo zamenjane.
And then, because of this fear, they let the child be on the phone for a longer period, because in this way they somehow buy their love, so the role is actually reversed a lot of times.
In dejansko starši ne upajo postaviti teh mej, da bi lahko te otroke zavarovali.
And basically, parents are afraid to set the boundaries in order to protect a child.
In na podlagi tega otroci imajo telefone cele dneve. V bistvu hodijo z njimi spat, največkrat rečejo, da rabijo telefon za spanje zaradi tega, ker rabijo budilko, ker jih zjutraj zbudi.
And then the consequence is that children use these phones all day or are allowed to have them. And even the irony is that they say, okay, I need the phone to go to sleep with because in the morning I need the clock to wake me.
V bistvu v vseh možnih trgovinah imamo za 5 evrov vse možne budilke, a oni rabijo glih telefon.
So in every store you can buy for 5 euros a phone that can wake you up, but no, the child needs a cell phone.
In starši se v bistvu pustijo v tem prepričati.
And the parents let themselves be convinced, okay, that in fact what the child is saying is true.
In pol veste, kaj vse ti otroci na teh telefonih počnejo, ne?
And then the road to the all other content that is not, the clock is open.
Največkrat želijo lajke. Zakaj želijo lajke? Zaradi tega, ker je v osnovi, naši osnovi v bistvu to, da pripadamo.
And a lot of times these children, all they want is like on this media for somebody to like them. So somebody press the like or the fire or something, because our basic need is to belong somewhere. It's attachment.
In potem si predstavljamo, koliko enih občutkov gre čez otroško telo oziroma koliko enih zlorab se lahko zgodi znotraj tega.
And so then we can imagine how many feelings passes through the child's body and how many abuse can be derived from this.
In v bistvu potem ugotavljamo, da je največji problem ločitve.
And then we see that the biggest challenge or problem of the divorce is.
In potem v bistvu na podlagi tega, naprimer, en starš, ker otroka podkupuje oziroma z njim manipulira, mu da še več možnosti, da ima še več telefona in drugi, naprimer, če mu želi omejiti to, dejansko je nemočen. In potem pride tukaj ogromnokrat do še kreganja med starši oziroma tudi menjave tega, da gre od ene do drugega starša.
So then what happens is, like we also discussed yesterday during the dinner, that one parent is strict and is aware of the what can the phone, is strict with use, and the other parent says, no, look, I want my child to like me, so I give him the phone, and then even parents struggle with each other.
In v bistvu potem telefoni vzgajajo naše otroke.
And then basically the phone is the one who's upbringing the child and not the parents.
Še posebej influencerji, ki so dostikrat zelo toksični in
especially these influencers who can be very toxic. Okay. Yeah, so my colleague now covered most of it. What I wanted to say is also this, like the colleague says, that we all want to be nowadays, this needs that we have to be liked, to be visible, to, if you're not on social media, if your picture is not posted, if you don't share what you eat, you don't exist. But really what is behind these needs is, again, this need for attachment. So we need a relationship. And if we give the child the relationship, then this use of the phone will be less, I can convince you of that, because when we go with these children to these summer camps, so we have 70, 80 children, 80 and 200 sometimes, 120 sometimes, we say to the parents, okay, we will take the phone, and by the end of the camp, we will return it. But each day, they will be on the phone for 1 hour or half an hour, so they can call you. But what we give to these children in exchange is a program, so a routine. From 7 a.m. until 9 p.m., they are with us, they interact and everything. And actually, I go now for 3 years with these children. I never encountered somebody approaching me, even if it's a child, if it's 6 years or 10 or adolescent, who would say, look, please give me because I'm bored. They only maybe come and they say, okay, give me the phone, I want to contact the parents, which means like if you engage with them, but if you take the phone, then you need to be at their disposal. And also we have sometimes, before we heard you're also having two therapists for the play therapy. I do the play therapy with them also. And then you have like boys, 8, 9 years, and I think to myself, okay, how will this go? They will probably not pay attention or something. But when you ask them to speak about themselves, and then you try to interrupt because you think, okay, now somebody else has a chance, they say, no, teacher, but you interrupted me. Hear me out also. So how valuable is, I mean, we all think it's just children, they have nothing to say, but they do. And they wanna see that we care what they have to say.
Thank you. Would you like to now explain the, or
yeah,
later?
So we have just short presentation, because maybe one thing that also it's good to be aware of is the brain development, which we discussed or heard a little bit already. So these parts of the brain that are still not blue, so brain mature at age 25. Which means if we give this, even we are like we heard before, this dopamine. Why is it so hard not to be on the phone? Because all the time the new content, and people who develop the phones, it's huge research behind this. And people who develop the phone, the first rule is they don't give the phone to their own children. And so it's toxic for us. And then if the brain is not even developed, how toxic can this be for children? So this is maybe good to always have in mind. Like if you are not like an athlete, I cannot be an athlete if I'm not equipped with it. That's why the children need adults to regulate them, because otherwise they cannot, their brain is just not developed, and in this way that they can do this by themselves. Yeah, so here we just listed a few things like digital content, what can it do to the children? So anger, rage signs of crisis, children need external control, and also this, we are overflown with content nowadays. Like 300 years ago, people received so many information through their whole lifespan as we received now in one newspaper, one copy of a newspaper. But our brain didn't develop this fast as this development is going. And then this, yes, that we need something new all the time. But like we say, the essence is our relationships.
Thank you. I would like to give the chance later to the audience to ask. So now I will stick to one area, which is the school. So my question would be, how did the learning capabilities and the motivation to learn change at today's children or in these generations? What do you notice? And what is the role of digitalization or phones in this change? And whoever would like to. Yes, please.
So one of the first schools I taught at in the UK was a quite deprived school in sort of rural Oxfordshire, so middle of the country and not terribly well looked after in terms of finance. And one of the benefits of that was that we didn't have the machines in school. And attention spans were short, I thought, coming from a university setting, but attention spans meant that they could probably survive a lesson with tasks that were broken into sort of 15-minute segments. So when you were planning an hour's lesson, you would divide that hour into roughly 6 different tasks. And a task might be listening to a bit of lecture, or it might be figuring out the solution to a problem or writing a paragraph. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the most elite school in the country, and I realize that's controversial to the other school in the country. But our lessons now last 40 minutes, which means if I'm trying to teach something like, well, I'm a history teacher and a politics teacher, so let's pretend that I have something depthy to say. Let's say, arguably, that I'm teaching a lesson on the Holocaust. I've got to do the Holocaust in 40 minutes. And not only that, I've got to get the tasks for that lesson down to about 3 to 4 minutes of independent engagement, because realistically, that's all I can expect them to do before they've lost either the motivation or the concentration on the task itself. So the biggest problem I've seen of introducing any of this sort of digital content is exactly as mentioned earlier. It moves faster than our brains do. And that's a huge benefit. To be able to use AI to manipulate data, fantastic. To be able to use digital platforms to spread access. For example, if you're teaching biology and you want to do a lab that you couldn't afford to do, but you've got a class set of 40 surfaces that you can then use, fantastic. But the caveat to all of this is that attention spans have dipped and knowledge content is eviscerated, which means if I wanted to have a conversation with my politics division, about a third of what we teach is political philosophy, and if I wanted them to analyze a piece of political philosophy work, that's beyond their capability. And so consequently, I suppose I'm going to take an objection here with a Sir Roger quote on your placemats, that the world is already ordered in our perceptions as a place fit for the lives of beings like us. I would say the world is no longer ordered to our perception. We are instead manipulating our perception, or being manipulated in our perception, through this sort of meta world. And so consequently, I suppose the issue is that reality is no longer real. The attention span is too short to be able to analyze anything critically. And the knowledge base is such that, well, frankly, kids don't know enough to be able to analyze things if they did have a longer attention span or a sense of what's real. And so the result, I think, is quite dystopian.
Yes, I think it's a very important thing to say that now young people are easier to manipulate with propaganda because their ability to think and to have critical sense is very poor. So you have the good ones and the bad ones, like in a very bad movie from Walt Disney, and they are not able to build what we call the thesis, antithesis, synthesis. It's too difficult for them, and it asks them to go through frustration, and they cannot, because I remember when I published my last book, my fifth book, my publisher asked me to have Instagram, and I didn't have Instagram. And he told me, please, make very short video, not more than 1 minute, because after, people will scroll. It means that even us, adults, we are not always able to read a novel. We are able to read an article if it's not too long. And this means their language is poorer and poorer. And the less words a child has to express his emotions, the more aggressive it will become. It means the society in which we live depends on their cognitive abilities. And it's not only attention span, it's not only memory, it's also ability to regulate the nervous system. And it's very important. And when parents come to my office and ask me what they can do, the first question I ask them is, please tell me, how many screens do you have at home? And when you're having dinner with your kids, do you look at them in the eyes to establish a deep affective contact with them? Because it will increase their self-esteem, and they will not need to crave on screens to feel full. So perhaps it was not very clear what I was talking about, but I think we can't build the peace in the society if we do not develop their cognitive abilities.
Thank you. Jožica?
V bistvu, če se mogoče navežem na sogovornico. Jaz sem sestro, ki ima 2 hčerki in je dobila ena hčerka za rojstni dan računalnik.
So I have a sister, she has 2 daughters, and one received a computer for the birthday.
In ona reče, poglejte, jaz bom pa zdaj vse stvari prepisala na računalnik in se bom učila prek računalnika, zaradi tega, ker sledim novodobnim tehnologijam.
And then the child says, the daughter says, okay, look, mom, now I will only use computer, I will not write by hand anymore, because, I want to be in also.
In vsi rečejo, wow, super, da boš ti to naredila.
And everybody says, well, great, yeah, do that.
A slišite to manipulacijo?
So do you hear the manipulation?
In pol ona pač odlična učenka začne dobivati same cveke.
So she was a good student, she would get the grade 5, and then all of a sudden her grade drops and she received grade 1, which is not okay.
In sestra skoči v zrak, kaj se je zdaj to zgodilo?
And because the sister is the teacher, she is frustrated, like what happened?
In me kliče in me sprašuje, kaj naj naredim.
And she calls him and asks him, okay, so what am I supposed to do now?
Pravim družinski sestanek.
And I say family meeting, family gathering.
Da se zmenimo, kdaj računalnik in vsa tehnologija bo.
So let's decide on the rules. When yes, computer, when no, when all this technology is available and when not.
In sestra se spomne ene dobre ideje, kupi kovček in vse aparature zaklene v kovček in je samo na tisti trenutek, ko pač se dogovorijo, ta zadeva pač nekako uporabno oziroma funkcionira.
So his sister comes up with an idea, buys a suitcase and locks all the screens in the suitcase, and only on the hour when it can be available, it's available.
In se mi zdi najbolj bistveno to, da se res starši držijo in zmenijo tega dogovora. Vse veste, otroci nenehno manipulirajo. Pa ne zato, da bi oni to hoteli, ampak zaradi tega, ker je to v njihovi naravi.
And so this is essential, that the parent sets the limits, and the limits are not stretching. Today, 1 hour, tomorrow, like this is the rule for a week, so let's go with this. Because children, of course, like to manipulate, but not because they would want to or do it on purpose, but that's kind of their nature. They know what they want and they know how to get it.
Zdaj ne vem, če imate tudi vsi vi probleme, ne? Pri nas v Sloveniji imamo problem to, da otroci ne bi delali nič.
So we don't know if you have the similar problem, but in Slovenia, majority of children, if you ask them what they want to do, they say nothing.
Zaradi tega, ker je to v njihovi naravi, ker še možgani niso dovolj zreli. In če pogledamo, da možgani porabijo 20% celotne energije telesa, se pravi, že tam porabijo toliko energije, da potem ne bi delali totalno nič.
So this is because this is their nature and because their brain is not developed, and the brain needs 20% of the energy only for the body functioning. So then how many is left? So it's no wonder they use some brains even for the body to function, and then the rest they just want to do nothing.
In če pogledamo zdaj mojo roko, ne, da se to možgani.
So if this is the brain and this is the spine nerve,
limbični sistem,
limbic system,
te veliki možgani,
big brains.
Se pravi, še tukaj te veliki možgani pri otrocih niso zreli.
So this big brain is not developed yet with children.
In jih, ko pride tukaj do tistega afekta, tako odpihne.
And so when they should be regulated, they are not calm. That's why they need us, but it's like they get tantrum if you take the phone.
Vedno rabijo nekoga odraslega, da jih pomaga umiriti.
So they would always need an adult to calm them.
A veste, zakaj se vedno toliko globoko umirijo ob telefonu?
So do you know why they always calm themselves with the phone?
Ker je telefon vedno miren.
Because the phone is always quiet. It's peaceful. It's at peace.
Ker tudi otroci rabijo tam starše, ki bi z njimi ostal miren in postavil eno mejo in jim dal eno možnost, oziroma da se starši zavedajo tega, da otroci vedno govorijo nekaj, česar si v bistvu ne želijo. Vse noben od otrok ne želi zabluziti.
So basically they also need an adult who is regulated, because what the child is saying, and even if they say no, 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 basically they don't want to be not successful. It's just they don't know how to handle matters differently.
Pri otrocih najstnikih je v bistvu ena obrnjena logika. Ne je ja, ja je ne.
So with adolescents, there is this reverse logic. No means yes, and yes means no. So I'm in trouble here because Andrei always covers most of the things, and then I even forget a little bit, but just also, I don't want this to sound like we then guilt the parents or burden them too much, because parents are facing with a lot these days too. We need to also understand, this is a nice title, It Takes a Village, because in the past it took a village. A mother was never alone to raise a child, or a father. Father was usually absent, so it took a village. It took all relatives to raise a child. And today we forget this. Parents are in work 24/7 basically, and you come home and now you expect a child gives you a tantrum, and now you should be regulated and calm yourself, and you had a hard day and you just want 5 minutes to take a rest, and you tell the child, okay, here, the phone, give me 5 minutes, right? But okay, then you go back and you tell him, okay, now I missed you, let's do this together, something, because the parents are available. It's not needed 24/7. It only takes 1/3 of the time or 10 minutes per day to calm the child. Because a lot of times parents come to the therapy and you feel sorry for the parents too, because you see they are tired and they don't have the idea what to do anymore. And they say, but listen, I take him horse riding, I buy him new shoes, I buy everything, and still it's not enough. And then I say, yes, but this, because parents, on the other hand, they think if you buy them everything, if you take them everything, but this doesn't really mean that you have a connection, that you have this safe attachment, that these basic needs, what they have to be seen, safe, soothed, secure, and that they are in a relationship. Because what is the most valuable for the child? To know that when you go away, you carry them in your heart. And when they go away, you carry them in their heart. And when they this little perception when they have, there is much easier to have connection and to set the rules. Like, if I have just a minute, let me tell you one example. Like in these camps this year, because of course children come from challenging environments, and also sometimes they are placed in the children's home, and there were 2 brothers and they were extremely they couldn't regulate themselves, and then they couldn't be even in the group, and they said, okay, you be with one in the morning and with one in the afternoon. But the boys were athletes and they were very fast, so I was very afraid, like I couldn't sleep. What am I supposed to do? You know, if like, okay, in the morning I go and they decide, okay, you are boring, you are old, what will we do with you? They will run. I was like, okay. But imagine, like one boy, we were in the summer, so he had no sunblock, no water, no brisača. What do you need for the beach? Towel, no nothing. And so, okay, I give him all this, and we go to the beach, and then he was like 13. And I asked him about him, what he's like, and I said, okay, so you're punished now today, do you know what you did? And he was like, no. I said, okay, but you know that what you did was wrong? And he's like, yes. And this is it. No further discussion. You were wrong. You were bad. Because he hears this every day. And so finally somebody took interest. And he was fine. And for the rest of the camp, nobody needed to spend the time apart. And then later afternoon, I had younger brother and the similar effect. So how valuable is this when you take them serious? And when they can feel that you take them serious?
Thank you. The audience is always more creative than me, so I would like to give the chance to the audience to raise their hands if they have any questions. Now it's time.
And screens in the thank you. And screens in the schools, but it starts earlier. That anybody have some suggestions that how to do before school age? Thank you.
So I'm gonna go right back to school with this for 2 reasons. I would argue that one of the primary reasons that children are given technology at a young age is to prepare them to use technology later. It might also be to babysit, to distract. I understand that. But the school element that I think is an easy fix for at home is to stop assigning work that needs to be done on technology. If we did that, I would argue that probably about 75% of tech use at home, big tech use at home by kids, would be gone. When I was a child, we would be given about an hour of screen time a day, and that included homework time. That was my mother's rule. She was very strict on it. Sometimes we had to demonstrate good behavior to get it. It was the 1990s. It was a long time ago. That would be impossible with the current amount of homework, right, and schoolwork that is set on screens, which means that our kids are overstimulated, which means that we've got all those issues. But if instead we said, right, all work you're going to do needs to be done on paper, how many hours do your kids spend doing homework? How many hours would that mean that they're not on a screen? So that's not a slight answer to your question, because I think ultimately one of the problems is that we don't have buy-in from all parents yet.
Concerning babies and toddlers, I think it's public health problems, and we have to argue with the parents and explain to them that babies and toddlers who make so many tantrums, I know because I had twins during the lockdowns, well, they are very immature, their brains, their eyes are immature, and screens are like hypnotizing them. That's why parents use it, because they do not move anymore. But the studies show that early exposure to screens is associated with decreased cognitive abilities and academic performance later in life. And the language development is also affected by screen time. So we have to tell parents, but 50 years ago, how did your grandmother? The toddlers can be involved in every domestic tasks. My twins, when they were 2 years old, loved to use a vacuum. And they helped me in the kitchen. You just have to be aware that there is danger, and you explain them that there is danger. And when you take your shower, they are in the bathroom with you, I know, but it's okay. And they are so happy to look at you and to talk with you, and you give them a lipstick and they paint the wall, but it's okay, it's kids. And I think the parents today have a big... have a bad sense of guilty. They think they must have perfect children, but children are not little adults. And so children are vivid, children are noisy, children are not clean, and it's okay. But we have to remember that our very sacred mission as adults is the transmission. Not only the material transmission, not only the money, we will leave them when we will die, but the transmission of domestic abilities. And you can cook with a kid. You can prepare the breakfast. He doesn't need to watch a screen until you're ready in the morning to give him his milk or his pancakes. You can involve him in everything. It just takes a little more time and a little more patience. So the real question behind screens, I think, it is, are we mature enough to live with very young children?
I would just like to add, there is also one trap. Parents now are afraid if children are a little bit bored. Everybody's afraid, like you need to entertain them all the time. So where is the creativity in this? You just give them the phone, you give them the cartoon, and you know, no, they also need to, because before the colleague said they are not with frustration, good with frustration. Of course not, because you need to entertain them all the time. And now by age, I don't know, 18, 20, they've seen it all. They had a boyfriend, they had Instagram, they had filters. So at age 20, they don't know what to do anymore. I am bored. This is all they know. What do you want to do? You ask them, like an adolescence, which changed 3 schools, high schools, and what would you like to do? Honestly, nothing. I know I cannot do this, but it's boring to go to work, it's boring to go to school, so I would want to be, I don't know, a millionaire or singer, something, right? And then, what your question, yes, no phones at least up to 12 years maybe, if possible. But then what we also forgot, children in the past, grandparents or parents, they used to read books. So that's how we interact, that's how we build a relationship, right? Now, okay, you watch the movie, but do it together, right? We can interact here also.
V bistvu se možgani razvijajo pri 21 letih, ne? In v bistvu do takrat otroci rabijo nenehno kontrolo, ne? Še posebej v teh nekih situacijah grožnje za smrtjo. Se pravi, moramo v teh letih do 18. vsaj do 18. leta resno jemati to, ker dejansko tudi telefoni povzročajo te grožnje oziroma dajo en ta občutek, da otroci so podvrženi temu potem.
Yeah, like we said, the brain develops up to 25, but only in 21 actually the sense of responsibility is matured enough. And so by that time we always need to have control over them, and also this when they these threats of with death, right? We need to be alert about that.
Thank you very much. I think there was a lot to take away. So thank you again for your insights and your thoughts. And there was a lot of practical things which we could use and take to home. So you mentioned the role model thing to be models, and also I like the pencil thing, the first pencil and then screens. We also had the locked suitcase, which can be unlocked when we just want, read books and involve them in the housework. So I think there was a lot of advice which we could use later. And thank you again for this fruitful discussion, and thank you for the audience for your attention.